Hey, family, hope all is well. Hope this video found you doing well, that you guys had a great weekend, and you are ready to go. You are ready to have an awesome week ahead, and that you are ready to push towards your goals. Wanted to take this time in this vlog to talk about yellow signs and what they are. And how much of a powerful tool it is in the world of marketing and sales. And categorically, this particular talk could fall under all three of our core business principles for business growth. And again, those principles are strategy, performance, and relationships. I honestly can teach this in all three categories. I am going to teach this in the category of performance. And I will just add some context of how it shows up as a strategy, and then how it impacts relationships ultimately. And again, in successive order, strategy is the slowest way to grow your business, build your business. Performance is the second fastest way, and the fastest way to build and grow your business, generate revenue, is through relationships. So what are yellow signs, and why are we talking about this? Are they caution signs? Are they flashing lights? Are these signs that tell people or tell us to stop? If you guessed any of those, you would be wrong. You would be wrong, and it's not your fault. But let me kind of give you just an origin story really quick about what yellow signs are and how they show up, and how they factor into my business story, my business journey. So when I was at rock bottom, and I had already lost my first business. I had lost all the property that we owned, and so it was a real estate business. Lost all the property that we owned, lost vehicles, was in massive debt, credit was shot. I mean, everything that went wrong absolutely did go wrong. I took a 3-year hiatus, and I don't think I had a plan to come back. I don't think I wanted to come back, and I'm not sure that entrepreneurship was top of mind for me. But like any good entrepreneur, or entrepreneurs that just can't let it go, there's always something deep down inside that was just always there. And how I know something was there was because a friend of mine, who in years prior, when I was running my business and looking to build my portfolio, was right alongside with me. We were building and buying together. We didn't do business together. I think we were looking at doing business together, and then tragedy struck in his family literally while we were looking at a piece of property. But as things settled down for him and his life, settled down, I somehow just shared with him, hey man, I'm just chilling. I'm not really doing anything. So faithful to his process of resource sharing, he shared with me a podcast at the time. And he said, listen, you just listen to this guy, right? And this guy was Sean Terry. Sean Terry was, and I don't follow him today, so I'm not sure if he's still in the wholesale business. But at the time, he was in the wholesale business and just recorded tons of podcast videos. And the name of the podcast, the name of his book, and the name of, I think, all his trainings was Flip to Freedom. So flipping contracts, flipping properties, primarily flipping on the wholesale side, Flip to Freedom. And so, I said, I'll listen to it. And I just remember it took me about 2 weeks to listen to 100 episodes of his entire podcast channel, because that's how many he recorded at the time, up to 100 episodes. And I remember 2 to 3 weeks just pounding through nonstop, consuming it. And what I remember about that podcast was that he just systematically kept drilling into the head of the listener the process. The process, it was just super simple, and it came down to letters and that you will write to people whose property may be available for sale, and it will come down to yellow signs. And that's where the yellow signs came from. And so I remember after week 2, week 3, I was nearing the end, and I was washing my newborn's bottles, and I just got the sense that, let me try this. Now might be an interesting time to try something. I have nothing to lose, nothing to be afraid of or ashamed of. Now's the time. I could not afford yellow signs at the time. Remember, I was broke, and I was trying to figure it out. But I could afford the next best thing, which was not a great bang for my buck at all. But I was able to afford a 2-pack of white corrugated signs. And so corrugated signs and the yellow signs ultimately are, you never seen the yard signs that politicians put in the yard when it's voter season or election season. We buy those corrugated signs, and so you can get them pre-printed, etc. Or you can buy plain white ones, and you can write on them. And so they came 2 to a pack, $20. I spent my lunch money on it. I said, man, let me save up for this, and spent $20 on 2 super large corrugated white signs. And I eventually bought like a super fat Sharpie so that I could fill the space. And so I followed Sean's directions and wrote the language that he recommended that worked for him. Sell your house fast for cash. Then I had a Google number. Put the number down there and just put it out there. What was important to me this first weekend that I did it was to actually do it, to actually get out of my house, get out of any fears and insecurities I had or felt, and to put the signs out there. Now, the insecurities I felt at the time was, okay, where am I put this? And if I put these out there, I feel kind of weird doing this because I don't see anybody putting signs out there. But I knew, as a resident of my city, that somebody puts out corrugated signs in these public areas. And at the time, I did notice there were people posting these signs on light poles. I eventually did not do that. But I saw them. I started noticing them after a while. Somebody was putting out signs when it was election season. So who does it? When do they do it? How do they do it? So I figured out, all right, let me just wake up early on a Saturday morning, 4 o'clock, still dark outside, very few cars out. And let me just put out my first 2 signs. It took everything out of me just to make sure I got out of that house and to do it. I drove up and down the area where I was looking to put it, and I wanted to study where to put it. And so I probably spent the better part of an hour just figuring out where to put it in this particular area. And then I made the fateful decision. I parked my car, crossed the street, and I put my signs down. And I do remember it being cold, right? And so, having to figure out how to stake it in the ground so it can stay. And then I sat there and I watched as my signs were being viewed. And at the time, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, very little traffic. But I went home. I remember getting home around 7-ish, right? And thinking about those signs and then putting the podcast thing back on. So I said, okay, well, I got over that fear, and that was my biggest fear, right? I got over the fear of putting out my marketing. Now, this is not a recommendation for you to put out yellow signs for your business. This is a marketing conversation. And so that first weekend passed. That second weekend, I did it again with the Home Depot. Got, I think I maybe bought a few more packs, saved up a few more money, a few more dollars, and then just wrote the signs out. I remember that particular second weekend, and maybe the third or fourth weekend, I had a production line going to write these signs down. And but this is what really changed everything. That second week, I wrote the signs out, did the same thing. Got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, dead of night, still, everybody's out. And put them out. And I remember I got a call. I was caught off guard. I was shocked. I was fumbling. I was like, what? And I did not close the person. I don't even think I got an appointment to view their property. It didn't even matter. What mattered more to me in that moment was the fact that my marketing generated a call. I may have gotten 2 calls that weekend. By the time I got the second call, I was floored. But I just remember that second weekend, I got several calls. And those phone calls, even though they did not result into a close, a purchase, a contract, it didn't result into anything. And again, we're talking about performance, right? It changed everything. When you're talking about performance, right? Even in this story, you could look at this story and say, well, you didn't generate anything. You didn't get any sales. And from a sales perspective, I did not have any performance. So my performance was 0. My relationships were 0. But my strategy was moving up the scales. But from a marketing and branding, not branding, but from a marketing perspective and getting the word out there, the strategy was developed by Sean. And I picked it up through the podcast. So I didn't have to figure anything out. Well, where did you figure out how to get the white signs from Home Depot? He said on the podcast. He said if you don't got enough money to buy yellow signs, go to Home Depot, buy a few signs, and then figure it out from there. All right. Well, he took away every objection I was coming up with, right? So I had to generate performance results. What is the result I'm looking for when I'm marketing? I'm looking for reaction. I'm looking for traction. I'm looking for phone calls. I'm looking for web hits. I'm looking for emails. I'm looking for some sort of communication between the customers, because at that point, you can't determine when you're in that early stage who's red, yellow, green, or who's ready to go, who's at a moderate level, and who's just not ready for you. I haven't even developed at that time my measurement tool to determine if you are a fit for what I'm trying to do, or if I'm a fit for you, right? And then, of course, ultimately, I did not have any metrics towards closing. Right. But what I will tell you that in the early stages, that marketing through the white signs and the phone calls changed everything. I said, oh, my goodness, I mustered up and saved all my lunch money, because remember, funds are tight. I don't have credit that I was using. And I had to use what I had, cash. And we were operating, living on cash at the time, just straight cash, cash management in our household. I bought as many signs as my little money could afford. If I had $40 to $60, if that's all I had, I'm spending every bit of it and the tax money to go to Home Depot to get what I can afford. I did not go beyond my budget. There's a couple lessons in here, and I didn't even get to what I'm teaching yet, but the part of the lesson is you can try to compete with other businesses, and you can try to sell the way they're selling, market the way they're marketing, purchase the tools that they're using, and you can't afford it, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. It is not necessary. If you can't afford it, if you haven't set the budget aside to pay for said marketing tactics and strategies, do not do it. Do what you can afford. What can you afford? Whatever you budget. And whatever you budget is coming from whatever income you have. Well, my business is not making anything. This is why it's important to have income. Have a job. Get a job. Listen, for those of you who are watching this and you're thinking I can quit my job and go full-time in my business, you can find videos from me, but from others around the world who talk about you got to keep income, have income, cash flow coming in as you're building the business. Even if you're in your business full-time and you're growing the business and you're scaling the business, you still got to have income coming in from the business. Something that's stable while you're building and growing other elements of the business. There's just no way around it. You got to have cash flow. So in the early stages, it's budget from your job. I use the method, or I share this method of tithing to your business. If you tithe to your church, tithe to your business. Whether it's 5 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents on the dollar, whatever it is you can afford, just give that to the business. And whatever the business can afford to purchase, whether it's supplies, marketing, etc., or if you can pay staff per diem or hire staff ad hoc, 1099, one-off services, that's all you can afford. It is what it is, and negotiate from there. And that's exactly what I did. I bought whatever I could afford with my little lunch money for these white signs. And because I kept getting phone calls, no closures yet, I kept buying more. At some point, I said, okay, I'm spending a lot of money at Home Depot for these white signs that I have to write out myself, and I got to be neat. And if I mess up, I'm not throwing this away because this is good money being spent. Let me go ahead and get these signs printed. And so because I started spending a certain amount at Home Depot on a weekly basis, I decided, well, let me buy. They have like the quantity amounts. I think I was buying 50 to 100 yellow signs at a time, and I was only putting out not all 50 because that could have worked. But I think I was trying to stretch my money. I was probably putting out 12 to 20 signs at a time. So a box of 50 could last me two weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And sometimes, those signs, the city would have to take them down by come Monday, right? So my signs would have a 48-hour runtime, 48-hour marketing window. And if I got lucky, my signs would still be up Monday, Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday. And if I got really, really lucky, some signs would be up there all week. And so I would be saving the ones I didn't put out and just leave the ones that are already out there, add one or two that were missing from my targeted spot. And I just kept working the system. And so I started buying yellow signs that were rectangular in nature. And it says, sell your house fast for cash, had my phone number. I got obsessive with a few things. How big the print was. I wanted to make sure from your vehicle that when you saw this yellow sign, which stood out like a sore thumb, and this black lettering, that you noticed it. Secondly, when you noticed the sign, could you read the sign, whether it was literally right out your window or if you were 1 to 2 cars behind the car that was in front of the sign? I became very obsessive when I was designing on the website. I kept it simple. There was no real design to it, but I was focused on the size. And every order, I got better and better and better. Third, I got obsessive about the angle that I put the signs in the ground. So if you're driving down the street and you put the sign straight and the car is parked, what you end up missing is that the vehicle that is parked straight and your sign is straight parallel, they got to break their neck to view it. And the people who are farther back won't be able to see it as well because words get cut off from their angle, from their view, and numbers get cut off. The other thing I was concerned about is when it comes to positioning, I got to angle it so that if the car is straight, my signs were angled this way so that the driver didn't have to break their neck, but they can see, sell your house fast for cash, here's my 9-digit number. And I knew that if I angled it right, the passenger, if there was a couple driving, the driver might not have noticed, but the couple, the passenger would say, hey, aren't we trying to sell this house that we just having trouble with? Look at this sign. So it was viewable by the driver and passenger, and then more importantly, my signs were spaced out. So my sign could be viewed by car 1, 2, and 3 before I reset and had another sign, because where I put it had stop signs that lasted 2 to 3 minutes. So vehicles are parked at this red light, these red lights where I put it at, for 2 to 3 minutes at a time. That's quality time. If you think about driving down a highway and you see a digital billboard or a paper billboard, the rate of speed you're traveling makes it almost challenging to read the billboard if you pass a certain point. If it catches your attention at a certain point, even if you're going 60, 70, 80 miles per hour, you can still read and drive safely, but you got to catch it. Imagine me having these yellow signs at a red light and I got your attention for 2 to 3 minutes at a time. And my signs could reach up to probably 9 to 12 cars at a time just at one red light. But what I didn't tell you is that I had about 6 red lights captured. So 6 times 12, I had 60 vehicles looking at my yellow signs at 3-minute intervals, and then the traffic would flow about 5 minutes, and then it would stop. And again, so imagine a 48 to 72 hour window, how many vehicles I was capturing, right? Yellow signs with black letters, you can see that in the dark. I got obsessive. It got to the point when we would go to church on Sunday, I would drive to church, making sure we passed by my signs, one, to see if they were still up. And then 2, I would say, hey, baby, can you see that sign? She said, yeah, I see your sign. I said, honey, is that the right angle? Can you really read all that? I got on my wife's nerves going to church, man. I got on her nerves, man. But I'm like, yo, babe, we're going our way to church. We need to make sure we checking the marketing, making sure it's right. And she would give me her feedback, and the next weekend, based upon what we talked about in that moment, I would angle it more, adjust it. I became obsessive, making sure people saw my messaging. I wanted to make sure we were positioned well so that people could see what we were offering and who can make a call. And so that led to me generating tons of calls, which is, we're still in performance, right? So the performance started with, I would say, my friend giving me this podcast. He already knew the strategy was going to work. He just knew. He knew I was going to latch onto it. He knew before I did, so I just had to perform. Performance was listening to the podcast, reading the book, consuming information. All right, listening to the podcast, Sean gave strategy, right? And I listened to the strategy. All I had to do was perform and get out the house for the first time and get over my fear. Sean gave so many stories of how he had to get over fears, insecurities, concerns he felt inside when he was marketing, the different ways he was marketing. Performance turned into a focus on phone calls. I became focused on customer service. And then I had to focus on vetting clients or vetting people who were calling to determine if they were a fit for me and I was a fit for them. And then performance focused on how can I build a relationship? Again, strategy, performance, relationship. But then I would go back to the performance, because once I built the relationship to determine that you were green or at worst a yellow, I got to close the deal and sell. And I remember my first sell, the sweet smell of what I deemed was success. I sold I sold my first contract. I remember what I made. Let me just see. This contract profit was $2,500. But I ended up splitting it with a guy I met, and we split the profits 50-50. And so my portion was $1,250? $1,250. I remember that like it was yesterday. $1,250. It changed everything, because after months of marketing and going through this progression, I got my first close and sell and cash in hand. It changed everything. And I remember these stories fondly, because it's just a reminder of what the grind looks like. It's not easy. And of course, you get systematically better and better and better and better and better. And this guy who sold to me and my colleague, we asked, how'd you find us? Oh, the yellow signs in this area. Yellow signs. So let me ask you, what are the yellow signs in your business that you need to put out? Whether it's through social media, whether it's through emails, whether it's through proposal submissions, whether it's through attending events, presenting your product and your services, your resources to the right people. We all have yellow signs that we need to make available and to let people know that we are open for business. I want to challenge you to listen and read content that is going to help you position your business better. Maybe it's these newsletters that's going to help you do that. I don't know. Maybe it's a book you're reading, a video you're watching on YouTube, a social media post. Maybe it's an audio book. Maybe it's a podcast. Whatever it is, get good information that's going to challenge you in an area where you're weak, where you're struggling. Listen and study and take notes. And if it's good information that's resonating with your brain and your soul and your heart, the next important thing is to take the strategies in that content and start to perform. Performance changes everything. Take action. That's how other people call it. You got to take action. You got to get results. You got to move fast. You got to generate movement in the work that you're doing. I hope that you found this video helpful. And there's tons of stories in the yellow signs story. There are tons of threads and rabbit trails that we can go down when it comes to yellow signs and how that shows up today in my marketing life, in my positioning and branding life. There are tons of yellow signs that I use today that sometimes don't even require a physical product, right? One of which that has been a gift that I earned and worked for, but I use, and it's called Dr. Clark, right? Most people don't even know my first name. They just call me Dr. Clark as if that's my full name. But that doctor that I worked for and I earned, and that I'm super thankful for the time of study and research and engagement in my area of strategy and leadership, it is a yellow sign that pays dividends, and it offers credibility, and it offers impact, and it gives trust. And It's not, that in and of itself isn't good enough. But I want to leave you with this thought, that the performance behind your yellow signs is a constant improvement of how you're marketing, positioning yourself. It is not a set it and forget it concept. My yellow signs got ripped up almost every Monday, at the latest Tuesday. That meant every Saturday morning at 4 o'clock, I had to reset the clock. I had to reset the marketing material. I had to reposition, reintroduce myself to customers, potential customers. Some people saw my sign for weeks because they travel frequently to work and home, church, home, store, home, family, home, passing these darn yellow signs. Let me call, man, because I'm struggling with this house. I can't finish the construction, or I have way too many homes, or I inherited a home. I really don't want it, don't need it. Let me just get rid of it, and I just need to get rid of it next week. And can this guy provide a solution? The marketing is perpetual. Even when I show up as Dr. Clark, I have to work every day to reinforce what it stands for. A teacher. That's what a doctor is, a teacher, an instructor. You can't teach what you don't know. You can't teach what you're not experiencing. You can't teach what you're not studying, right? And so it's constant, getting better, tweak after tweak, improving the yellow signs, becoming obsessive about being better, being great at what you do, being known for what you do, that you can just, on the top of the head, talk about your yellow signs and serve the needs of your customers to ultimately help them with their strategy, help them get results and perform, and to build long-term relationships that continues to return dividends. Hope you found this helpful, family. Continue to build and grow your business. I wish you much success in your business. Hope you have a productive week. See you next time.